You know, when you go to the party and you look at a guy across the room and he's acting crazy, he's like, you know, hitting on the girls, he's drinking beer, he's loud, he's making everyone laugh, and you say to yourself, geez, he's a character. Okay, but that guy is going to stay, that character is going to stay in your mind. You're going to remember him for a long time. And when it comes to writing, that is what you want to create. Those are the kind of characters you want to create. Those are the characters that you want to make explode off the page, as it were. Okay, and even if you are a fantasy and science fiction author and your characters are fantastical, you know, it could be an alien with horns growing out his head and he's got 6 arms and he's covered in feathers, it doesn't matter. You have to make a character as realistic as possible. So your goal as a writer is to create characters that will seem as normal in the context of the story as anybody, like as another human being, as a person that you meet on the street. So it is very important that your dialogue for that character, their personality, the way they look, the way they represent themselves, is written down on the page. So when the reader meets this character for the first time, they are drawn in, they feel a connection to that reader. And that's what I mean about creating real characters with real dialogue. So I'm just going to speak very briefly about my experience and how I see my characters in my books and how I created my characters. So one of my strengths as a writer is character development. I'm very good at it, and I think it comes from me being in the performing arts world my entire life. I've been a dancer, I'm still a professional actress. So when I look at characters as an actress on a page, okay, it is very, very important for me that as an actress reading a script, I go into the background of that character. I know everything about that character, where she comes from, what life experiences she's had, who her parents were, who her friends are, what traumas she's gone through in her life to get her to where she is now, so that when I express the words from this character in a film or in a play, okay, the audience, the reader, is going to resonate with me as this character. I'm portraying her inside and out. This is very, very important as a writer as well, that you create characters that the reader can get to know inside and out. And as a writer, you've got to have the ability to get all of this information out on the page without necessarily going into the character's background. Okay, so for example, what I do, if I, like for example, my epic fantasy series, I've got 12 books. There are hundreds of characters in my books. Every single character has to have a very unique voice, a very unique approach to life, a very unique way of expressing themselves. They have to be their own entity. And it's tricky when you even have like similar people, okay, that you are dealing with. Each person in a scene has to have a very distinct personality, and that is your challenge as a writer. So what you need to do, this is what I've done, and this is just advice, by the way, guys. I'm not telling you how to do this, okay? So what I do is that I write a biography of every single character, or I have an idea where have they come from, okay? Like I said, who their parents were, what traumas or experiences they've had in their lives, that has turned them into the person that they are in your story right in the present. You don't necessarily have to go into any backstory of any character, but you as a writer, it helps you as a writer as well to get that character onto the page so that when they start speaking, sorry if you can hear noise, it's my cat trying to get into the room. Okay, when that character starts speaking and interacting with other characters, they are staying true to who they are, and they are speaking to the other characters because of their life experience, because of who they are. So if it helps you, if you're struggling with that, write a biography for each character. Just get your notebook out, write it down, how old they are, what they look like, where they've come from, and what they are dealing with. So I'm going to give you an example of one of my characters. So from my novel, my vampire novel called Evelyn, a Vampire Legend, all right, we have the main character, Evelyn. Now, her story arc is also, I'm going to speak in another video, I'm going to speak about story arc and character arcs, okay, as well. So keep a lookout for that. Evelyn has a very distinct voice at the start of the story. She has lost her husband, her little boy in a terrible accident, and she's in a place at the moment where she is preparing herself to end her life. So her voice, her character, her personality at the start of the story is demure. It is very, she's got a terrible self-image. She hates life. She hates herself. So her voice is small. She carries herself in a small way. She starts off as a prostitute in a brothel. Okay, so she hates her life. She hates who she is, who she's become. She's very lonely. She doesn't have friends. And the character that she is at the start of the story is completely different to who she becomes at the end of the story. But her voice, her personality, how she deals, how she communicates to the other characters is completely different at the start of the story than it is at the end, when she becomes this powerhouse. She's powerful. She is strong. She is victorious. She is holding all the cards. No one can stand against her. You know, she has evolved from this person into this person. And then the way she communicates at the end of the story is completely different. And it's very, very important that your character, the story arc is realistic. And this comes to dialogue. So guys, when your characters are real, when your readers can identify with a character and kind of almost see themselves as that character, or knows of someone that is similar to that character, it's very important as well then that your dialogue is realistic. I'm going to give you a quick example. I'm a Star Wars nut, okay? That's why I write sci-fi and fantasy, okay? So in episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, when I went to go watch the films, I was very disappointed in the writing. And the reason for that, and this is just my personal opinion, okay? So the reason that I was disappointed in the writing was because it was so stilted and cold, and it didn't connect with me. The characters didn't connect with me. I didn't connect with them because the words that were coming out of their mouths didn't represent the characters that they were. Okay, the words that they were using to communicate didn't match the character. So I was completely pulled out of the story, and now here I am watching the movie and I'm focusing on what they're saying and going, that didn't sound right. Even the actors couldn't actually really get stuck into their characters because the writing, in my opinion only, okay, was crappy. They didn't have words to become powerful and strong and communicate with each other the way that they were supposed to. So it wasn't natural. It was stilted and cold and removed. Now that is not something that you want in your writing, in your characters. Your characters have to be able to speak and express themselves in conversation like it was the most natural thing in the world, so that your reader is not drawn out of the story and they kind of get drawn out of the flow as well of the story, because the speech, the words that the characters are using doesn't match who they are. So it takes a lot of subtlety and finesse. Sometimes it takes a little bit of practice, okay, to get the character that you've created and the words that they are speaking to match and make sure that it is really, really realistic. Okay, so those are just like a few little things that I wanted to bring to your attention. And when your characters are real and the way that they are speaking is natural and relaxed and really demonstrates who they are, your readers are going to get invested in the story. The readers are going to get invested in the characters. And then I'm going to give you a final example before I end this video. Sorry, it was a bit long. One of my characters in my book, a character exists. I've got my epic fantasy series the sword bearers, there are 12 books. Okay, there's a main character that you meet in book 1, and then it gets to book 6, and yeah, let's just say that he is no more after book 6. Okay, so I have a fan who literally gave me a call on the phone when she read book 6 and said, "What the hell did you do? Why did you do that?" I was devastated. How could you do that to that character? That was one of my favorite characters. And then you did that. How can you do that? You know how happy I was when I heard that phone call. So there's me as the author going, "Ooh, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted." Ha 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 ha. Okay, so there's me being the evil writer. Okay, but that's exactly the response I wanted. You know how it made me feel? I was thrilled. That is what you want for your readers. That is how you want them to respond to your stories. Okay. If you need to ask me any questions, please do so. I'd love it if you would follow me. If you really enjoyed this video, tell me what you thought. Okay. And guys, I will see you at the next one. Next one, I'm going to cover story arc, and I'm going to cover character arc, which is kind of similar to what I've spoken about with Evelyn. All right. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Bye.